All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with Alan and Marshall. I'm Marshall Atkinson.
I'm Alan Howe with Easy Way.
And we have such an exciting show today. And I can't wait to get into what we've got planned. So, Alan, why don't you introduce these fine gentlemen that are on our show today, and we can kick things off.
Well, I'll tell you what, Marshall, you and I have kept this under wraps for months. And we are so excited to have the top 3 manufacturers in the world in screen printing equipment here on our show. We have Ross Hunter, the president of ROQ US. We have Jon Potter with MHM. And we have, of course, our friend, Mr. Peter Walsh, vice president of M&R Equipment. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your busy day. I know John just rushed in. He was at the airport. And we really appreciate it. And we don't take that lightly.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, morning.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be a fun show. We're real excited about it. So,
yeah. All right. So here's this show is just like every other show we've done. We just have more people here. So it's a Q&A show. So what we really need is for you guys to say hello. We want to know that where you are, where you're watching from. Also, maybe you use one of these guys' equipment. That's awesome. Let us know that. Also, we would love it if you would share that you're watching the show. That's how we build our audience. So if you could just take a minute and share that you're watching, that would be fantastic. And then lastly, this is a Q&A show, which means questions. So we want you to participate. We want you to be engaged. We've got some topics lined up for these guys, but we want to know what your questions are. What are your concerns? All that kind of stuff. So please be part of our show. That really helps us be much better. So
absolutely.
And so I'm going to say hello to some people real quick, and then let's pay some bills with our commercial, and then we'll get right into it. Okay. So Sean's watching from Alpharetta. Hey, look at all the people. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Sam says good afternoon. Cindy's looking in from Texas as always.
Yep.
Dave Eggers says good afternoon. It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be great.
Ghost is watching in from Sweden. Best Ever Tease is watching. Hey, nice to see you.
Love to know who you are, your name, and where you're from. But thank you.
Our good buddy Richard's watching from Michigan. And so if you're watching and haven't said hello yet, please do so. And then Frank from SNS just said hello. So let's go ahead and run the commercial, and then we'll get into some topics because I know we're have a lot to cover today. So
sounds good.
Here we go. All right. We just got our first danger signal, which is we're not streaming on Facebook as we normally do.
Are you sure?
I don't know. That's what Chris here says. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Facebook and StreamYard sometimes don't play well.
It looks like we have a bunch of people that have listed
from
that are
Facebook,
on Facebook.
Right?
Yep.
So maybe it's just Chris. I don't know. Right?
It might be a Canadian thing, Chris.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yep.
So anyway,
wow.
Let's start the show off just with the state of the industry topic. And let's start off with John. And let's talk about the state of the industry. How does MHM see things? What's going on for you guys? Just want to check in.
Obviously my main market is Europe, and I do sort of assist in the US to BSI, as you know. Our observation of the market for the last few years since COVID, of course, is I think first of all the R's dropped out of the market completely in screen printing. It was a very difficult situation. There was no events going on, no concerts, no games, no nothing. So screen printing really, really suffered. I think it also gave rise to the fast fashion industry. It just accelerated this because all the kids were ordering clothes online. The cheaper brands online, because we have a big fashion nucleus in Europe, and also a promotional side of the business. So it's very, very different in the UK. A lot of the printing is fashion, not so much promotional. So we really, everybody, I think, suffered a little bit with in the beginning, but quite the opposite. The other side of the business, the brother side of the business, back to front, the brother side of the business. This exploded. So digital exploded. We had a massive couple of years with DTG. Even in the UK, a small island like the UK, we were doing 8 million sterling sales in digital machines in 1 year. It's crazy. So there was clearly a shift to online purchasing. Clearly, people that weren't used to buying online got used to buying online. Even older people that were reticent to deal with online things in the first place. So basically, we saw a massive acceleration in digital and a massive deceleration in screen printing. It almost dropped off a cliff. And as soon as the pandemic started to settle and we started to allow people out again, I think screen printing at the moment is still in recovery. You go to the trade shows in Europe and they're not particularly well attended. People are there that want to buy things, and that's about it. There's not a big footfall. People are very skeptical still. But screen print now is recovering quite nicely. There's obviously been some further problems now of a different nature, of course, because now we have a war in at the other side of Europe. We've got raw material shortages everywhere around the world. Nobody can get parts. It's really, really difficult. And I think something quite unique's happened, particularly in the US. The M&R, for example. Peter and I are very, very good friends, as you're probably aware. M&R, for example, who are a giant in the US market, always have been. They were struggling with long lead times. I'm not sure what Ross's lead times were like. I don't know that, but this kind of opened the door for a lot of European manufacturers to increase their presence in the US market, I think, purely because of M&R's inability to get machines out fast enough, I think. So this changed a little bit, but we see the market now in good recovery. We've got a good steam ahead. We've got a good backlog of orders for the US. The biggest problem we have, like most manufacturers, is we have machines crated and ready to go. And there's probably a small component as big as this that's on 16 weeks, and all the machines are sat there because they won't run without it. So it's a very, very awkward time for everybody. But it seems to be getting better.
Great. Thank you. Peter?
Well, John's just another one of the manufacturers that has thanked M&R for our long lead times. I appreciate you what there, John. I'm sure Ross feels the same way. We did come out of COVID with, labour shortages and supply chain, but they're problems that are getting better. Lead times certainly are not what we want them to be yet, but they are getting better. But more importantly, as it relates to state of the industry, we see the printers. I think it's been a very, very healthy recovery in the United States for screen printing. But we do see printers that are facing their own supply chain issues with shirts, consumables, equipment, other issues. But more importantly, they're facing a level of inflation that the industry's never seen before. You're seeing ink companies that are, both with the petroleum byproducts and with supply chain, cost of ink has gone up in some cases more significantly than it ever has. Shirts, when you can get them, you're paying more for them. You're having to maybe break your order into 3 or 4 different shipments, and freight charges are higher. And so one of the things I think that's really a danger to the industry is customers or printers that don't know what's happening to their cost. It used to be that, hey, things didn't move that much. Wait till next April when your accountant, you drop your box of receipts with him and say, hey, did I make any money this year? Well, I think in today's environment, if you don't know what your cost is and you're not staying up to date with it and raising your prices to cover those increased costs, I think there's some surprises for people that could negatively impact their business. So that's probably the black cloud on the horizon for us. A lot of really positive things, but those rising costs for the printers, just hope people are staying on top of it.
Yeah, good point. You're absolutely right there, Peter.
Great. So Ross, what's going on with ROQ?
Going last is hard. These guys summed a lot of it up really well. I mean,
okay, next topic. Oh no,
that are made, right?
yeah.
I mean, for us, it's been a phenomenal couple years. I mean, as John said, when COVID first started, I mean, it was like basically the brakes just completely pumped, and I think everyone was in a little bit of a panic. I mean, anyone in business was in a panic. I don't care what industry you're in,
right.
And coming out of that first 3 months, I mean, I think a lot changed. I think the startup market completely halted for that first year. I don't think anyone that was printing manually was getting into automation, getting into digital necessarily. And so a big portion of the industry just wasn't there. And I think we've seen that in the trade shows too, as John was pointing out. I mean, even in the US, right? The people that are coming tend to be enterprise level printers. You have less of that entry level market coming in and getting ready to take risks and spend money to grow their businesses. We've had a great couple years. Supply chain's been kind to us. Being vertical is obviously very helpful in that light. Shipping has been awful, as everyone experiences, and those costs have inflated just to unbelievable levels. It is affecting everyone's supply chain issues, I mean, throughout the industry. And I love Peter's comment about costs and pricing. I mean, this is the number one thing all of our printers need to be thinking about. And I think it's changing the way that we look at brokered screen printing. I think that's taken the biggest hit. I mean, you just can't print a shirt right now for 45 cents. It's not sustainable. And so you're having a lot of people struggling with their models where that end client, is getting confused. And I mean, my big advice to all the printers out there is you do need to understand your costs. You need to go back, stop using a piece of paper with a bunch of prices on it. I mean, as inflation, continues to happen in the US, as we continue to have more issues, which, there's no end in sight right now for everything that's kind of this domino effect of financial crisis plus, wars and everything else. I mean, it's going to continue to be a thing. And I think people really need to wrap their heads around what are they charging their customers? Is their business actually profitable? And I think that if the industry as a whole can do that and come together and stop competing for pennies, collectively we'll see the industry really bounce back in a healthy way. But if we continue old habits, I think it's there's going to be rougher times to come. But that's my 2 cents.
No, I think that's great. And I love what all of you have said. One thing that I think that has come out of this, everybody has had an issue, whether it be manufacturing here in the States or transportation into the States. I have seen more equipment get sold just because it was available. Some people have bought a ROQ because, I wanted an MHM because it was available. Some people have gotten an M&R because their distributor had that in stock. Might have been a little bit bigger machine, but they got it. And I'm seeing that with other brands. And I know we all have dealer networks, and you all have very good dealers. And I think the dealers that are going to be successful are the ones that, you almost have to stock equipment now. And the ones that do that are going to be more successful.
And let's not forget the used equipment market's just insane.
It is, yeah.
So we have a really great question here I want to throw out here. So Mark says, when will direct-to-film or DTG impact volume of Carousel screen printing?
And coming from Mark Burliard, he's with International Coatings. And so
what do you guys think about that?
So DTF and DTG is having a massive impact anyway. Already, DTF is like DTG's obviously been around a long time. There's been a lot of bad machines and a lot of bad history. The white ink, of course, with the titanium dioxide is always very difficult because it's trying to separate. And if you're not running the machines every day, you're going to get problems. It's as simple as that. But now these manufacturers have overcome these problems, and they've made the machines very easy to work, a lot less maintenance on them, a lot more reliable. So you're starting to see that growth in digital. We kind of break it down into three markets, and I'm going to be a little bit brutal to some of the manual screen printing manufacturers, but we break it down into manual screen printers, fashion screen printers, and promotional screen printers, because manual screen printers, this DTG has killed this industry. It's killed it. I don't care what anybody says, it's killed it dead. Unless you're buying a Carousel to do sampling on, if we were going to start a business tomorrow morning, and we had to invest in an expose unit, a manual Carousel, a dryer, all the inks and everything else, spot cure, building to put it in, your mate at the end of the dryer to take the shirts off, and the staff and everything else. Why not sit in the back bedroom of your mother's house and press a green button and print, 1200 DPI?
Yeah,
it's so simple. So that sector, we believe, has gone mainly digital anyway. The second sector is fashion, and the change is very, very accelerated in fashion, which is why you've seen a lot of Kornit machines being sold, for example. You notice Kornit are focusing their attention on attacking the screen printing market, if anybody notices this, because they see the screen printers as the big volume printers and the people that use the most ink. So, but this change is being dictated by the buyers, because, of course, the fashion buyers now realize that they've got no risk anymore. So, whereas before they had to print thousands of garments, and some of these garments were never going to sell, now they can have thousands of designs and only a few garments of each one. So rather than a typical example would be, with screen printers would run up a couple of thousand of 10 different designs for a fashion house. Now they'll have 50 different designs and only 100 of each. So it's took the risk away for the fashion people, digital. Okay. Large volume screen printing. This will be the last one to change, because, of course, the price of the white ink and everything else. So, until the price of the white ink comes down, the machines are fast enough to keep up with it and reliable enough to keep up with it. Then the promotional kind of big number business will always be there for screen printing. So whenever you hear somebody talking about, well, digital replace screen or DTF and DTG replace screen, it never will. It'll never happen. They're idiots if they think that. But there is a place for it. And this place seems to be getting bigger and bigger. And COVID and everything else that's happening recently seems to be accelerating this. Screen printing has its sustainability issues. We all know that. It's not the cleanest process in the world. And the world's pushing more and more towards sustainability. So you've got to pay attention to that. You have to, because your kids are going to grow up in a shitty world if you don't. And then DTF came along more recently. And this was like, if somebody was printing a difficult fabric, DTG is fantastic on 100% cotton, or maybe 80-20 maximum. But if you're printing 100% polyester or difficult fabrics, DTG is like a gift from God. It's unbelievable. It's like, sorry, DTF. DTF's unbelievable. It's like a gift. Somebody stumbled across this process to make printing on polyester really easy, printing on difficult fabrics really easy. It's bulletproof almost. It can go through the wash at crazy temperatures. It doesn't come off, and everything else. So we've noticed in DTG sales, for example, DTF has probably took 20% of DTG sales already. It won't replace them all, but again, it's got its place. Everything's got its place. But I think you're going to see a big impact, a massive impact, I think, in the next few years as the digital revolution trundles on. Look at ROQ. They build lovely machines. The big oval M&R with the Polaris now, and the digital squeegee and everything else. People are going this way, and it's really important that screen printers don't ignore it. That they try and embrace this technology. It's a little bit scary, the technology, and all us kind of older guys, we struggle with the remote control for the TV, so it's not easy to teach an old dog new tricks. But they have to embrace this technology because the world is changing, and I think the winners will be the people that can make the transition easier, so that the customers are not scared by it. You've got to hold their hand a little bit and really help them. We build machines with Brother that and also MHM that can go onto carousels. And what you've got to remember is that you're putting a massively complicated piece of technology into the hands of quite a low-paid worker in many cases. So, education with digital is a massive thing as well, and I think the people that can educate the screen printers, help the screen printers, hold their hands and show them that this is not too scary, will be the winners. Too many companies out there that think you should just throw your carousels away and start digital tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Never going to happen. You need a return on investment from these machines first. You need to know what you're doing with digital. Stick your toe in the water, maybe with a hybrid machine or something first, and then as your confidence grows and your business grows, maybe you'll go to full digital later. But you need to have machines that go through all stages, I think. Yep. But it's coming, and DTF and DTG's impact's massive.
So Ross or Peter, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I've probably got a different opinion to John because I'm not running a business in my mum's back bedroom. I actually left the family home quite some time ago. But now a lot of what John said, I do agree with. But the one thing I will say, we've been privy to some significant surveys that have been done of the industry. The industry is growing year on year. The number of impressions, compound annual growth rate, up close to 10% a year. So the industry continues to get better, larger for printed apparel. Some reports from Kornit, and this is public information. Kornit had estimated by 2023, so next year, they'd estimated that less than 3% of the total volume of garments being printed would be done digitally, and that over 97% of them would continue to be done with screen. So, what I see is not so much digital has taken away from screen. Digital has brought you the ability to print unit of one or small volume, 12 shirts, 20 shirts for a family or a business event that's happening next week. And digital, I think, has really created a totally new, unique channel. I think they're a big part of growing the industry overall. So if I was a screen printer, I wouldn't be scared that my screen printing business is going to go away. But I think if you're PITA customer, if you consider that customer to be someone that only wants a dozen shirts and only wants 2 dozen shirts and wants them delivered in 4 days, and you're turning these people away because they're at PITA, they have to get in line and accept your 14-day delivery, you are going to be a dinosaur. You're going to disappear. So if you're going to remain a screen printer, be the best screen printer you can be, get a handle on your costs, learn to set up quickly, tear down quickly, be as efficient as you can possibly be. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing, when it is time to go to digital, once again, John's 100% accurate. You need suppliers that are ready to provide the education, the training and support to help you and your team get there. And there are some great companies out there that provide that level of support, and some that maybe don't. So just make sure that as you do move forward into digital, that you've got yourself some good partners.
Very good.
Ross, any
thoughts? I see it very similarly to everyone, and I think that there's a point that's kind of been left out. And really, I think that consumer buying trends have changed. I think that the biggest thing that's changed in our market is a direct reflection of how buyer habits, just general consumers out there are buying T-shirts. And I think through COVID, and John pointed to this earlier, everyone had to go online, even the people that didn't want to. And then they started to see how easy it is and how much they enjoyed it. And, you know, you've got all these companies out there giving away Ferraris for buying t-shirts. I mean, it's kind of it's a crazy world, right? Buy a t-shirt, win a Ferrari. And I think that it's really changed the whole direct to consumer market. And so where I've seen digital really penetrate is really in that DTC space. And I think that the DTC space has grown substantially because it's a part of our market that wasn't near as tapped into prior to COVID happening. And I think that, you know, buyer trends are going to continue. You're going to see more and more retail stores shut down. We're seeing malls closing. I mean, we're just seeing the way that people shop change. And so I think that all the printers out there, where I agree with Peter and with John, I don't think that digital is going to take over screen, but I do think that it is a different tool that people need to get used to using. And if their business is moving into a direct to consumer space, I mean, clearly that's what they're going to need to do to penetrate that. And I think that there's still a lot of potential in that space that's untapped. I mean, clearly there's major players in it, but you know, there's a lot of money out there that's sitting on the table. And so I think that, you know, the biggest thing is as, you know, our world has changed and shopping habits have changed and all that, people need to think about, what is my business? Who is it for? Who am I printing for? How is that market shifting? And do I have the tools that I need to shift with that changing market? And I think that that's going to tell people when and where they need to put their money, whether that's in digital or DTF. And digital's got a wide range. You know, do I need a pot of brothers, or, you know, do I need a giant industrial machine? And I think that, again, those are two different segments.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot that plays into that. But to simply answer the question, I agree. I do not think screen printing is going anywhere. I don't think it ever completely will. This is just in addition to, and it's in a changing market that we're dealing with.
I agree. You know, we've seen this before. We've all been around long enough. I remember when digital first came into the graphics market and they said it was going to be the end of screen printing. Well, that was 1991, and, you know, we're still here. I do agree with John that in the fashion market, I think is where digital has really had the biggest impact, because when you're going on bolts of fabric where a designer used to have to wait 2 months, 2 to 3 months to get their designs, it's went from 2 months to 21 days to now under a week, where they can just have their designs, smaller quantities, and that's the part. But I also think in DTF, we're still seeing the surgeons that this is where DTG was in early 2000. This is a new market, and I tell people it's a viable market, it's a viable product, but remember, it's in its infancy right now. Things are going to change. Remember, you're the early adopter. Just be prepared for that, and make sure, and like everybody said, you have to know your market. What are you really looking at? What are you really looking to do?
And understand too, I think the biggest thing is digital, and for some digital machines, can you go in the back room and press a green button? 100%. I don't want to take that away from what John said, but I do want to be clear to people that are looking at digital out there. When you're getting into, you know, the large industrial machines, whether it be ours or M&Rs or Cornettes, you know, it's a craft. It is not a machine that you can buy and press a button. There's a lot involved, and it's a big expense, and it's a big undertaking, and people need to be prepared for that.
It's manufacturing.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I see, which is interesting, one thing I've noticed from a screen printing manufacturer's point of view, is obviously I've got screen printing and digital side of the business as well, is that there seems to be a standoff almost, because screen printing manufacturers and digital manufacturers see each other as the enemy.
Yeah, that's not true.
The most important thing is to have the knowledge of the crossover.
And, you know, that's
very important. They have to understand screen printing better. Some of these digital companies, they have no idea of screen printing. And you walk around trade shows and they're telling people this and telling people that. And you're walking past and thinking, no, why are you telling them this? You know, you see this all the time. So again, Ross is absolutely right. You know, with the big machines, for example, the big hybrids and stuff, you've really got to spend time with these customers and train them and educate them to work on these machines. Maintenance is a massively critical thing. You know,
absolutely.
These machines are going to cost you a lot of money if you don't look after them.
I think what's really interesting is the labels that we give ourselves. So if you're a screen printer, right, everything is viewed through a screen printer's lens, and you look at DTF transfers or DTG as less than, because that's not what I'm doing. And I can tell you from, I talk to lots of people, the end customer sometimes just doesn't care, right? They just want their shirts on Friday and they look good because they've got a thing. That's all they care about. How you did it or who printed it or how it was decorated is less important to them than I have my shirt on Friday and it looks great. And so when we look at the print and we look at the hand, and DTG doesn't feel like screen printing and transfers and whatever, at the end of the day, some of the stuff that because we have a certain label and how we look at things, that's how we're viewing it, not as we're entrepreneurs and we're about making money and giving our customers the best solution for their challenge. And I think sometimes we get kind of tripped up on that.
It's a great point, because we tell our staff all the time that, you've always got to remember that whether you buy a ROQ, an M&R, an MHM or whatever, you're printing shirts at the end of the day. And you never went in the pub in the evening and walked across to your mate and said, oh, that must have been printed on an M&R machine. We've got no idea how it's done. We're all quite proud, we build good machinery. We look at things in detail. Same with all screen printers. They look at things in detail as well. But we must never lose sight of the fact that we decorating garments at the end of the day, and when it gets to the end user, there's no way of telling normally which machine it's been printed on anyway. DTF is going back to DTF. It's got its place. I don't like DTF. There's been a hell of a lot of DTF machines coming to England, and there's a hell of a lot of problems now as well, because like Alan said, it's in the early stages. Most of these machines are coming from China. We build nice machines. You look inside some of these machines and it'll make your eyebrows curl, because I certainly wouldn't leave it switched on at night time when I'm going home. So it is in its infancy, but it's just got its place, hasn't it? I don't like the handle of DTF. I think if you're printing garments with a full image, I think it feels like you could fire a bullet at it and it bounce off. If you have breaks in the image, then like levers, hoodies or something, it's good. It's good for that kind of thing. It's got its place.
I don't know. I've seen transfers that are really nice. So I think it's like anything, is how was it built? How was it, there's a lot. How was it engineered? So what are you using? So
the paper, the coating on the paper, the powder, the density of the powder. There's lots of parameters that that make it good or bad. And like Alan says, it's in its infancy. It'd be interesting to see where it is in a few years' time.
Absolutely.
Hey, so we've got lots of topics. So I think we can talk about this thing for an hour, but let's go to the next one. And Ross, let's start with you and let's talk about changeover speed. And I think a lot of times we're focusing on equipment of how many prints you can do an hour. But I know from being an operations guy, one of the things that we really want to focus on is how many orders that we can print a day, and how easy is it to take a job down and set up a new one. And that's going to have a really direct impact on what we're doing. So how are you guys thinking about that? And, are you coming out with new products, or what are you doing to help people understand how to help with that transition speed?
That was a lot of questions. So, number one, I think it's the one thing that people don't look at when they're first getting into automated printing, which I think is important. It's always how many shirts does press do an hour? It's irrelevant. People need to stop asking that question, because honestly, it's who's loading and unloading, how fast can they do it? What are you printing? How many colors is it? I mean, it's just, I could say, oh, our press does 2,000 an hour. Who cares? No one can print 2,000 an hour. It's irrelevant, right? So, the changeover speed, is setup is obviously the most important. I think what I've loved in the last few years is the advancement in, direct to screen technology. For us press manufacturers, it's fairly simple. We don't have our own, direct to screen, but we do offer, a few different ones, from lasers to wax, etc. There's benefits and differences between all of them, but essentially, having a pre-registration board set up, having a mechanism in a direct to screen machine, whatever kind it is you end up going with, you don't have to touch micros or very little. And I think that, it's come a long way in the last few years. I mean, this stuff didn't exist when I started printing, and it's been great to see. And I think a lot of folks are afraid to take advantage of the pre and post press automation that's out there. A lot of folks see it as, maybe an unneeded expense. And this is where we've seen a huge amount of growth in the industry through COVID, because staffing has been difficult. Things have changed. So you're seeing a lot of people get into this automation, and then they're using it and realizing, oh my gosh, I just set up a job in under 2 minutes, and it's shaving off a lot of time. So for us, it's really about education. What do people not understand, in the industry or in their own business about pre and post press automation? And I throw the post press in there because it's just as important, when it comes to reclaim and everything else. So I think it's really it's about educating people. It's not necessarily what's the latest and greatest that we're coming out with. The tools are the same and they work. People just need the tools and know how to use them.
Yeah.
Peter?
Yeah, I'd say, once again, I agree. There are people out there that have got 2, 3 automatic machines, and they're not keeping up with production, and they're looking at buying a new machine and everything. Whereas if they were able to put more focus into, Ross nailed it, pre-press, post-press automation, kind of turn and earn quicker. You might be able to put off that decision needing to buy another machine and needing to hire more people. You might be able to put it off for a year or 2 or more and get the productivity out of the equipment you've got. So you see people leaving a lot of money on the table that are not taking advantage of CTS pre-registration. When I first got involved in selling CTS, people would want to justify how much am I spending in film, and how much will I not have to spend in film when I go to CTS? And you take that's a benefit, that's a bonus. It's got nothing to do with why you should or shouldn't look at CTS. Have a look at what's going to mean in your process, giving you that pre-registered screen, not having to block out all of these other features. And then people come back to you that bought the machine, they come back a year later and say, man, you're right, I'm saving $30,000 a year on film, but that's only the small part of it. So, focus on the little things. Like I say, get efficient in everything you can. Be the best printer you can be with the gear you've got today, and that's going to make you successful.
Yeah, I'm going to cut in just real quick, and I'm sorry, but there was a question that was on here that I think is really important to hit here, which is someone wrote, well, it's more of a statement, the pace of a press operator makes a big difference in those changeover times. And I think I just want to address that. I see so many times when I go in to shop visits, and a lot of times in screen printing, we forget we're running a business and educating ourselves on what do we need to do to create a culture? What do we need to do to create KPIs for our teams? It's not often I run into a screen printing shop that's got KPIs that their teams understand. So I think that there's a lot of ways that you can put controls on your press operators and give them bonuses and set up incentive programs and have those KPIs to help with that. So if you've got the equipment, but you're not getting the results, I mean, someone's only going to work as fast as that culture drives them to work.
Absolutely.
So, focusing on the operations of your company, focusing on the programs you've got set up with your operators, focusing on making people happy and wanting to do that quickly, I think is a big piece that's missing out of a lot of businesses in this industry. And that business education, I think, is just super important as well. So sorry, I just wanted to cut in with that.
Nice
with
point.
Sarah's comment.
No, good point. Yeah.
And by the way, I have an app for that. If you've got issues with your production KPIs, I can help.
We simplify this whole sort of scenario that Ross is absolutely correct, that anybody that is talking about the speed of the machines is barking up the wrong tree.
Absolutely.
Whether you buy a ROQ or an M&R or a MHM or whatever, these modern presses will run faster than any human being can load. Okay? The gas dryers couldn't be more efficient than they are. Doesn't matter where you buy one from. They're very efficient pieces of equipment. Okay? The only area that businesses can become more efficient and to save money is in the screen room, the pre-press and the post-press. Simple. As you know, with MHM, we spent a massive amount of time over the last 30 years with pre-reg systems. We like to think that that was something we did which was very, very good. I don't know if you're familiar with the automatic registration system.
Yep.
We used to have a little thing that you could line the films up on, put all the screens in, press a button, line the first screen up, press a button, and all the other screens would drive to the same position. So we've focused a lot on this. But a key term as well is to de-skill the entire operation. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think the operators have it a little bit too hard. I think, we expect far too much of the operators. We don't really make it easier for them. So if we concentrate mainly on de-skilling, and if you're in a screen room now, for example, and you can press one button and code to screen, you can press one button on the Spider 2, and print an image onto a screen.
Mm-hmm.
You can press a button on an LED expose unit, which is going to expose it really, really quickly in 20 seconds. Then you can put it in a developer and press a button on that, and that's going to develop 2 screens at once. All of a sudden, you've got one guy in the screen room can produce 300 screens a day in perfect registration.
Agreed.
And this is a great thing because screen room's not a nice place to work. You've made it easier for him. You've de-skilled it a little bit. You've put that automation into it to make his life easier, and it's a massive thing. So to put it in real terms, it's not about how fast the machine is anymore. It's how long it's stood for.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you're so right, John. I've seen shops where they have in their post press one guy who is coding, exposing, and developing and going around, and imaging, going around doing that. And he's doing 200 screens a shift, one guy. And then they make him the screen room manager, and that's his baby. And that's what he does. And it is a great thing.
Somebody's asked a question saying, do you see a lot of older printers refusing to use the pre-press reg systems?
Yeah.
There's always a reluctance to change with older people, including me. As we get older, we tend to be more reluctant to change because we kind of get used to the way the way we like to do things. And people become very focused on doing things in their set way. But again, this is another technology, as we all three of us supply, which has been embraced massively in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I always remember watching one of Peter's videos in Europe, and we like to think that we managed to keep we kept the big blue boys out of England for quite a long time. And then Smartass did a video, and there was some guy producing 300 screens in the screen room on his own every day, and we all thought, shit, we're going to have to do something here real quick, because all of a sudden all this technology started coming to England, and we thought, damn, they're in, what we're going to do. So we responded, and you go to any print shop now, and like I say, it's nothing to do with the speed of the machine. It's how long it's standing for. The easier you can make it, the easier you can feed it, the machines. Like Ross was saying, if you don't need to touch the micros, this is a massive benefit to the printers.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Marshall.
I was going to say for Sam's comment, for the printer who doesn't adjust to the new way of doing things, right? You have to insist that this is the shop way that we're going to do it, because we can get a catcher or a puller or a temp worker with some training, and they can be running the press, right? And you're right, it's job security because I'm the only one that knows how to do it.
Yep.
Right. But what happens when you're sick or you're on vacation or you test positive for COVID? Are we just not going to print shirts today? Right. So what we need more than anything is standards. This is how we do it. This is how we insist we're going to do it. And we make it easier so we can get more work done a day. So it's less about that worker and more about the total amount of production that we're doing. And that makes things better, right? So that's something that you should be looking at.
And that goes back to the culture and setting up real SOPs, and again, running it, just as our idols at Amazon and Google and all these other companies. You don't walk in there, they don't not have standard operating procedures. They don't not train their people on new ways of doing business. They don't not incentivize that through KPIs. I mean, all of that stuff is just so important. So just break those bad habits, take the time with your team, have those team meetings once a week, go over new procedures, talk about them, train on them, explain the importance, give them the why. If you just say do it because we're going to make more money, why do they care? It's not their money. They're getting paid the same thing. So what are you doing in their life that's going to be easier? Is that going to give them a half of a Friday off?
Yep.
Because now the work's done earlier and you're going to pay them to leave at noon on Friday. I mean, those are things that get people excited. So I think there's always a way to change a mind through giving a why and setting up those systems in place. And sorry to cut you guys off.
No, good.
Very passionate about that.
One qualifying question that I'll ask printers when I'm talking to them about this is, how long does it take you to set up an 8-color job on your automatic press? And some people come back and say 5 to 7 minutes per screen, very confidently that, they know they can get up and down in that time. Those people are generally, they're measuring those KPIs that Ross is talking about. They've got systems in place. The people who are a little bit scary, you say, how long does it take to set that press up? And they go, well, it depends. Depends on which operator's running it. It's like, guys, how do you price your work out to the market with it depends? If you don't know if the guy's going to be able to set that 8-color job up in 45 minutes or it's going to take him 3 hours. So if you don't have systems in place, if you're not measuring and you're not looking for improvement, that's a big area of upside. And probably more important than buying your next press, buying your next piece of equipment, is to really optimize what you've got.
Jesse's mentioned here about the relationship between the pre-reg system and the DTS, making sure that it mates. That's the key to everything, of course. He's absolutely right. When we install machines, for example, and we still install a spider machine with it, we'll produce a screen on the spider and go and set the machine up to that screen. So that spider is basically belongs with that machine or that customer. Everyone's unique almost. You've got to set every single one up unique. Every single different customer is unique. But the relationship between the CTS unit and the press has to be bang on. Otherwise, nothing works. So he's just to answer that one. He's just done a conversion kit on an iMage with the Newman. So the more accuracy you've got there, then the easier it's going to be for the operator. I think the operators sometimes get a bad deal. They get lots of things to sort out that they shouldn't have to do. It should be a lot easier for them.
Right. So let's take a pause real quick just to highlight a thing for our sponsor, GSG. So in there, go to gogsg.com and then look at their Pulse magazine, which is a really wonderful thing. And on page 4, this week they want to highlight Vortex films. So if you're still using films and not a CTS unit, this is a really great thing for you guys to have. And so let me, this is on page 4. So you can see they've got a lot of really fun stuff here. So this is at gogsg.com and check out their Pulse magazine. So let's switch gears here and get to our next topic, which is going to be service. So, John, let's start with you. Or actually, Peter, let's start with you since we're trying to trade off here. So let's think about what we're doing after the sale. Maybe we've got issues with the equipment or training or whatever. How are you guys thinking about helping customers with service? What does M&R do?
Well, I think one of our real key strengths, certainly in the US and also on a global perspective, is working with what you call value-added resellers. So your dealers have to have something they can bring to the table from, we can all build good equipment. We've all got great techs that can come in and set it up. But having people that can help after the sale with helping the printer optimize. I'll be honest, our printers can show you how to run the equipment. They'll show you that, if you take the HMI and you push to this screen and that screen, they're very comprehensive run through of how to run the equipment. But really, the whole value package comes in with the dealer, what they can provide after the event, what they can provide, whether it's their own, your own dealer rep providing ongoing support, or would they bring in someone from a Kiwa or a Sati or someone else to come in and help you in an easy way with a pre-press situation? That's what we do, and we obviously pride ourselves on service and support. Things like having a 24-hour, 365 service line people can call. But we do. It's all about uptime, putting the resources to keep our customers up and printing.
Great. John, what about you guys?
Yeah, we focus a lot on service. Like Peter says, one of the most important criteria is to have a dealer that's prepared to invest in service personnel and who takes it serious. We've all had experiences with good and bad dealers over the years in certain countries. We had a bad experience with a certain dealer in the US for some years, and we've got a good experience now again. I think so obviously, the dealer has to have service personnel. Those service personnel have to be trained. So they either have to fly to Europe or we fly there. I spent a lot of time at SPSI, as you know, with the guys. SPSI are really nice people. So we trained people up. We hired more people. We understood that we needed to hire more people. The US is a huge place. It's like me getting on the plane here and getting off in Moscow. Just you going from New York to LA. It's ridiculous how big your country is. So you need to have people there. A lot of people know Rick Roth, who used to be Mirror Image, who runs the Ink Kitchen. We hired his boy Oliver.
Yep.
And Oliver's loving it. He's really well trained. He's doing a great job. So we're bringing some young blood in as well. So service, you've got to have service technicians. You've got to have people that are prepared to get on the plane and travel immediately, which isn't always easy, believe me. So another way to do this is taking advantage of electronics. So what we have on most of the MHMs, as you know, we have a Galaxy tablet at the front. And we, as the main command unit, we used to have touchscreens. The problem is with touchscreens is all the manufacturers update them all the time, and give it 5 years and you struggle to get them. And you've got machines all over the world that you need to support. So we've gone to something that's completely updatable, upgradable, because the public use it. They tend to not make them, so you have to change them very often. So what we can do on our machines now is we can access the machine, we can switch the camera on the little iPad thing on the front, and the customer can walk around the machine, and we can say it's that red wire just there, put that red wire in, and that's going to save a technician a flight. It's going to get the customer running much quicker, because of course the problem for the customers is in the US is if they need a technician to come and it's something that they can't do themselves, then they're going to have some downtime, irrespective of who they're dealing with. So we're doing a lot of work on trying to reduce that waiting time, so that customers can fix more things themselves a lot easier. We've got the technicians there if we need it, and we've got the backup with the. For example, if I don't know if you can see my phone in on here, but if I show you my phone here, I don't know if you can see all the MHMs there. Look. There's lots of them. I can dial into any of the MHMs in the UK and have a conversation with the guys, or switch the cameras on and ask him to lift it off and walk around and show me what's going on. So you'd be amazed how many times you get on an aeroplane or you drive 250 miles and somebody's sat on the emergency stop button.
Yeah.
And you just go there and you click it, and the guy then doesn't want to pay you. So being able to utilize that kind of modern technology, like now, of course, everybody can do it because you can just switch on FaceTime and do it that way. But it's nice to have it on the press, So it's just making it better for the customers and making it more responsive. And finally, what we did to help customers again is if you've been using a certain type of press for a number of years, like if you're in the US, for example, they've always at some point in the career they owned an M&R, whether they have a ROQ or an MHM, they had an M&R at some point, normally. So when people are used to a certain way of doing things, it's very difficult to change them. So if you put a ROQ or an MHM in against some of these really old presses from 20 years ago, it looks like the mothership just landed. Mm-hmm. So if you don't, the technicians with the best will in the world, all the technicians will install the machine. They'll show the customer how to do things. This makes it go up, this makes it go down, that makes it move or whatever. Okay. But a lot of the technicians aren't really good printers. So we work with a guy called Tony Palmer from England, as you know. He spent a lot of time in the US. And whenever anybody buys an MHM that's had something else before, once the technician's done, this was my insistence that SPSI then send Tony in there, and they spent, or somebody else like Nate Lieber or somebody like this goes in there and spends time with that customer and shows him how to work that machine properly and the benefits from it. Because if you don't do this, again, what we talked about earlier, people are reticent to change. You know, sometimes this technology becomes very scary and they'll just go back to what they used to, and then they never want to go on this machine. What you want to do is you want to send Tony in there or somebody to make sure that they never want to go back to the old machine, that they see all the benefits of this new machine and how it's going to make the life easier. So on-site training, not in a showroom, on-site training is massively important. And I think if you've got those three aspects covered, your customers stand a good chance of switching it on and making money, because that's what they want to do.
Great. Hey, Ross, what about ROQ? How are you guys innovating there?
I mean, a lot of what everyone already said. Obviously, technology has been great. We're building a very large base across the U.S. You know, hiring from different places, I think, is important. We've hired quite a few screen printers, users of our equipment that, you know, have left an operation or whatever and have reached out to us for work, which is great. So you've got people that know how to print, they know how to build the machine, you know, kind of do the full training all in one. We have a lot of ex-military, which is really interesting. A lot of like helicopter mechanics and stuff, which is actually really kind of cool. I don't know. That's just a tidbit. Has nothing to do with our service, but I find it interesting.
Is it because it goes around?
You know, I don't know. It's just interesting. Yeah, it's just an interesting fact. Our biggest thing is investing in technology. So we're launching new software within the next 3 months, where basically when you purchase with us, you'll get a login. It'll be an app on your phone. Clients can log in, they can create tickets, and automatically pings the closest service rep or technicians. We're putting a lot of investment into service automation on the back end to make it simple, so you don't have to pick up the phone, you don't have to call anyone necessarily. It's at the tip of literally pressing a button. And then it's like a pizza tracker, so you can track the whole thing all the way through. If you need parts, it'll track your part. Everything will auto-populate into the system. So we're really excited about that. We're also adding gateways onto our units. So kind of as John had said with, you know, their tablets, ours are all gonna not have a tablet. It'll actually be built into the actual system, you know, the computer screen itself. Everything will be online. So doing updates and stuff like that. Future forward, we're really hoping to launch that January at Long Beach this year. Don't hold me to that, because technology is fun right now with computer chips and systems and everything. But you know, so we're investing a lot in technology. I think that's the biggest thing. I think people are just more and more used to not wanting to talk to anyone, press something on their phone, have it arrive next day, and we're putting a lot of investment in the service side of things.
I think, you know,
I'll give you a short answer there.
Yeah, I think everybody wants stuff the next day, and in today's world, that's not always possible. I still think every person that gets an automatic, they need to have a certain amount of parts there in their shop, a stroke cylinder, a limit switch, one of these things that just, you know, I heard one manufacturer early on just say, you know, I asked about parts, and he goes, yeah, well, our machine doesn't break. And I looked at him, I go, ever? Come on, there's moving parts. And that was, I mean, there was a translation mix up in there, but yeah. But, you know, these things do break down. It's not because it's bad equipment, but shops need to also be responsible. Have these things on there, because sometimes you can detect on the phone and you can be back up and running in 10 minutes. And that's time. And so, yeah.
Flash cure lamps is a classic one, isn't it? You know, lamps for the flash cure. You know, you get people, you know, if people just keep a lamp or two on the shelf and they've got all these flash cures in the building. Yeah. And you know, the lamp goes in the flash, and some flashes are wide so that if one lamp goes, it takes another one with it.
Right.
You know, it's a case of either waiting a couple of days or a day or whatever for a lamp to be express shipped to you, or start to move the lamps around so the dead ones are at the ends or whatever. You know, it's a massive problem just for the sake of having a few spare parts. So it's a really good point.
Yeah, I always, when I was ordering parts, if I'm ordering one, I'm going to order 2 or 3 or 4.
Yep.
Because now I don't have to wait. It's just sitting right there. And I had, of course, lots of equipment. So let's move to the last topic, which is really what's going on in the future. What are you guys excited about? You know, what are you building? I don't know if you can share the secret rocket sauce or what, but very curious of how you guys see the rest of this year, maybe next year and beyond. What are you guys thinking about? Let's start with you, Ross.
Let me unmute myself here. I have construction happening next to me, so I apologize if you guys hear saws going. I mean, everything I just talked about on the service side, we're really excited about. We are working on some smaller format fold and pack machines that we're really excited about. Not quite sure, you know, when we'll be ready to launch that, but it's definitely something in the works. And you know, excited to also announce that we are looking at unveiling an all electric ROQ. Which is going to be pretty exciting. So, you know, compressors and electricity and all that kind of stuff we know is just an extra barrier to entry for a lot of people getting into this business for the first time. And so combating that, I think, will be really exciting. So we've got some cool stuff coming out. There's probably more than that, but those are a couple of the big things that we're really jazzed about.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Peter?
Yeah, I think I can, without giving too much away, come to Printing United. You'll see technology preview of a couple of different machines. Come to Long Beach, you'll see full launches of a number of different machines, different formats, different market segments. We have, interestingly, we did go down the route of a fully electric machine. But, you know, looking, and maybe we're not looking at the same way that ROQ has, or, you know, someone like an Anatol has, but we still believe that with the squeegee equalizer system we have, that we are going to maintain the squeegee and flood cylinders will, you know, remain as pneumatics, because we think the quality of the print, we're able to control it, get a better result. But, you know, so we'll have an almost all electric machine, but like I say, we are keeping squeegee flood bars. It means instead of having a 7.5 or 10 horsepower compressor, you'll be able to, you know, supply the machine with a 2.5 horsepower, plug into 110 volt single phase. So, you know, there is a lot of pent up products, new development that we'll be rolling out both at Printing United and at Long Beach.
Awesome.
Good. John?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ross entirely. I think the ideas of all electric presses are brilliant, because a compressor is the biggest wasted medium in the world. It makes compressed air to exhaust it back into the atmosphere. You know, so what it does all day. It's like watching your money going away, you know. So I think for people that are starting out, like there was this little Anatol Volt machine, and these kind of machines I think are really cool, to be fair. I think it's a good idea. It keeps that investment down. Sustainability, again, is a massive word. So the future of the industry is going to be greater sustainability for a start, you know, of course. You'll see more all electric machines, I'm sure. You'll see more single phase machines. I mean, we build quite a lot of single phase machines now. Obviously, it's difficult with certain things because to create heat, you need amps, you know, so it's difficult with flash gears and things, but and digital, of course. Workflow automation is going to be a massive thing. De-skilling, workflow automation, making things run smoother. And then the digital, you're going to see, I think you're going to see more and more digital combinations, more hybrids, more digital ovals, complete digitals. I think you're going to see the industry kind of find its way where you've got screen printing in this bit, digital in this bit, and everything's going to have its own area. And I think the big printers that have a foot in each camp would be very smart.
Well, excellent. And I know a lot of people asked lots of questions. We just have so many people here. It's hard to get to everything. So I did see a really great question I want to throw up here, which was from Terry. So not being negative, but I speak with people who worry about planned obsolescence, where we're, and I think, Kornit's been guilty of this, where they're just not supporting those presses anymore because now we're doing this, right? So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I can jump in.
I
can jump in and give you an answer on the Polaris. The Polaris is about 12 or 14 different systems working together. You have a mechanical shirt transfer system that will last for 20 years or more. But then you have digital print engines. You have a digital print engine for white, digital print engine for color. You have high airflow flash shear units. You have heat presses. You have pre-treatment application systems. And we've built this machine with upgradability in mind. Look, you buy a Polaris in 2022, I guarantee the indexer, providing it's maintained, it'll still be functional, it'll be holding tight registration accuracy 20 years from now. But I can also guarantee the digital print engine, the technology of chemistry is going to change between 2022 and 2025. There'll be an opportunity for, maybe it'll be different ink systems, different pre-treats, more colors, faster performance. And we've built a machine that's modular that you can wheel, a station out and plug it in with, the 2025 generation. You won't be pushing the whole machine off into a corner and putting a tarp over the top of it and saying, okay, we've got to junk the whole machine to move to the next technology. So, we've absolutely attacked that. And, I'd like to say we're the only company in the industry, but I think there are some other companies that are, particularly with the oval format, that have followed a similar line of thought. So don't be scared to buy today and thinking, what happens in a year or two. We've got you covered.
Great.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, it's we don't really want to build. None of the manufacturers want to build machines that have got a planned, obsolescence or whatever. We don't want to do that. Keywords compatibility, of course. You want things from the old machines to be able to be used on newer machines when people do upgrade for whatever reason. When we're designing machines, we're using tried and tested technology. The printhead technology is very, very, very complex. There isn't many manufacturers of printheads in the world. I don't think people realize. Probably only half a dozen people in the world manufacture printheads any good. These are massive companies. These Japanese companies, they're worth billions and billions. Brother's one of them. So we do build in a lot of future proofing in these machines. Because don't forget, from a manufacturer's point of view, the last thing we want to do is have loads of machines stood out there in 5 years' time that we can't get parts for as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the key is modular. I mean, to Peter's point, our ROQ now is built modular as well for that exact same reason. And I think as people are looking to the future, the modular designs are upgradable. And I mean, to his point, the press bases, those are going to last forever, just like any, not forever, but 20, 30 years, whatever the case may be. But being able to go in and change components on the digital hybrid machine simply and cheaply, where you're not, upgrading an entire system, or creating a paperweight, I think is the key. And people should look at modular for everything they're doing. I mean, it's a really important point. If you can find systems that are modular, whether it be digital or folding or reclaim, whatever the case may be, it gives you options as things change in the industry, and options are always good.
Good.
Well,
so I want to throw out just a quick commercial for Shirt Lab Chicago, which is July the 22nd. That's coming up. Both M&R and ROQ are sponsors. Thank you so much, as well as GSG, sponsor of this show. So you can go to shirtlablive.com and get your tickets. It's July the 22nd. We're having a networking event on the 21st, and then a whole day of incredible discussions and education about sales, marketing, operations. So just want to throw out that real quick. And then lastly, let's just wrap up. Want each of you guys say a last word, and then we'll sign off. So why don't you start with you, John?
Let's make sure we put up their email address too when they're up talking.
Yeah, hey, good thinking.
I would like to thank the American customers for MHM's been in the US for a very long time. We had some ups and downs. You know, we many of the biggest printers in the US are still MHM, as you know. We have one or two bad experiences with dealers. We've got a very good dealer now. We've been around a hell of a long. We've been around a hell of a long time in Europe. We're a monstrous company outside of the US, as you know. I really appreciate the US customers taking me and making me welcome like they always have done. I really appreciate that. I've got some great friends out there. I love these. I love your country. I love you guys. It's been really nice to be welcomed and to be made feel, involved and welcome. So from my side, customers can be guaranteed that we care. You know, we give a shit, which is the most important thing.
Yep.
And I really appreciate the opportunity that the customers have given me to assist them with their businesses as well. So that's great. Thank you.
I do agree. I've been in this industry going on 35 years now, and I think MHM is the strongest they've ever been. So very nice.
It's getting better for all of us, I think. Yeah.
Good. Ross?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for putting this together. I think it's fun to get all the manufacturers together and be able to have a nice, productive conversation for everyone out there listening. I mean, same thing as John. I want to thank all our rockers out there. You know, everyone that's made this business possible in the U.S. and for continuing to grow and evolve. And it's a very exciting time for us right now. And for all the listeners, keep educating yourself on business. I can't stress that as much. And Marshall, what you got, keep educating on business, right? And I think as everything's changing, as I said earlier, it's the biggest place that people can have some real gains in what they're doing in apparel decoration. And as always, come visit us at the shows. We're happy to see everyone, and excited to be a part of this great industry. So that's all I got. Rock on.
Great. Peter, you get the last word, dude.
Oh, well, just thanks to John, thanks to Ross for coming on. Appreciate this. The only thing that might have made the show a little more fun, a little more interesting, if we'd done about 10 o'clock one night at a trade show, after a little bit of liquid lubrication, we may have, you may have seen the true personalities come out. But I really do like and respect my competitors. You got two great companies here that I do not. People talk to me about one thing or another. I always try and push forward our benefits. I'd never attack these guys. They've got good companies, good people, and I really try to operate with our customers on the basis that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So show your customers that we care about them, and we care about your business. We care about you being sustainable and profitable. Come back to what Ross just said. Get a handle on costs. Understand what makes your business profitable. We'll keep going for many years to come.
And guys, thank you so much, man. This has been fun. I just put the comment up on about the color of Peter's shirt and everything on there. That is a camera issue, guys. And before the program, it was actually Ross who noticed that and brought it up to Peter, trying to change it. So, I love that everybody gets along, and I think that's a part that they don't see on a Facebook post, on an internet chat room and stuff. That when we're all together, everybody's out there trying to make a living. When we're all together, everybody gets along. We're buying beers from each other. We're having a drink with each other, and mutual respect. And that's the best. That's the best thing about this industry.
Hey, I was a member of the ROQ Owners group on Facebook for a while, and I only got out of it when I made the mistake of answering a question to try and help somebody. And I had someone not Ross. I'm sure he would have given me some leeway. but I had someone kick me off the site. So I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter. Maybe just a little.
I think it's really funny that you read about all these press wars on Facebook. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Facebook reminds me of a soccer game. There's 11 players on each side and 50,000 referees. You know. So you see all these press wars and everything else. Now I think that people need to understand that we all get along and we're all have a mutual respect for each other. The companies behind it, and you've got to buy the machine that's right for your business.
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing. Buy the machine that's right for your business.
I had a client this week ask me about this show. Goes, Alan, is that going to be difficult for you? I go, not for me. I said, I'm just a co-host. I just sell chemical. But I have, he goes, you've sold equipment. I said, I've sold rocks. I've sold M&Rs. I've competed against ABHM. And he goes, how well did you do? I go, not real well. But yeah, both great equipment. And yeah, so I don't think anybody can go wrong looking at either one of them.
So, all right. So Frank has a suggestion. Are we going to see Barrett, Tajima, and ZSK next week?
Oh, wow.
That's really funny.
You know what?
Hey,
we
good
might
thought,
have to.
Frank. Maybe we'll line that up and we'll see what happens. So,
well, I think who had the idea earlier? Peter said we should get the dealers on, get GSG, get Ryanette, and get SPSI, Tom Cadute, and get all the dealers on, the 3 dealers on next. I'm like, that might be a little harder to handle, but that'd
all right. Fun. Well, hey, happy Father's Day, everyone. And we'll see you guys next week. Really appreciate everyone here participating today. And what is the next show's what? Fort Worth?
Fort Worth,
right?
And then Printing United.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys there. And any questions or anything, just reach out. Happy to help you guys. Otherwise, you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Right. Don't go away. Don't go away, guys.